We will be hearing from 5 experts who are sitting here on the first bench. They will be telling us about their insights and experiences in how to attract talent, how to build capacity, and how to support the coming generation of geological professionals. So welcome, Guðni Axelsson. The technology is being annoying. Guðni has been heavily involved in geothermal education throughout his career and is currently the director of Geothermal Training Program. His presentation will delve into the history and the amazing success of the Geothermal Training Program, which has been in operation for almost 50 years. When not knee-deep in geothermal issues, Guðni's guilty pleasure is listening to 60s rock while driving to work, instead of maybe answering the important emails or phone calls. So please welcome Guðni.
Yeah. So, good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here with you and to be in this session, which focuses on things which are very dear to my heart, that is geothermal education. And I'm going to be telling you a little bit, very briefly, about the geothermal training program, which, as Ása said, is approaching half a century in age, and our capacity building in developing countries over this period. Go through the history and our activities and how we see the future a little bit. But just to set the stage a little, just a few words on geothermal energy. Of course, this conference is all about geothermal energies, so you will learn a lot during this conference as a whole. But I always like to emphasize that the geothermal resources of the Earth are really enormous, and we're only utilizing a very tiny proportion of that as of yet. Not all the resources can be utilized today with today's technology and economically, but the future holds a great promise with increased use of geothermal energy. And geothermal energy can certainly play a much bigger role than it does today and help us fight climate change and contribute to sustainable development of mankind. But as many of us, and as we all know perhaps, is that geothermal energy it's not well known, actually poorly known in the world as a whole. And it's poorly known at government level, also poorly known even in scientific and engineering community, poorly known by the general public. Geothermal research, geothermal development, utilization is not really mainstream. And of course, this conference aims to sort of help with that a little bit by spreading the word. But what is most important is really full-scale training and technology transfer, which is essential to sort of move this along. But a few words on the geothermal training program, our purpose and organization. Our stated purpose is to assist developing nations that have some geothermal potential, be it small, low temperature resources or tremendous high temperature volcanic resources, to assist them in building and enhancing expertise through very intensive training in different fields of specialization, covering the basic scientific geological aspects through the engineering, through the utilization, to environmental aspects, project management, and all that is required. We started operation on a very small scale in 1979, and we were operated at Orkustofnun, or the National Energy Authority of Iceland, up to 2021. But since then, we are operated at Iceland Geosurvey. And our main financing, not all, but most of it, is development aid funds from the government of Iceland through the Ministry for Foreign Affairs. We are actually a very tiny organization. We only have 3 to 4 full-time staff members, but we have a very large sort of pool of experts that come in, not all of them every year, but come in yearly to help us with lecturing, with advising students and training them in general. And last time I counted, this was between 80 to 90 experts from different institutes in Iceland, from research institute, from the universities, from engineering firms, and from the energy companies. We have very good cooperation with all of these, the geothermal industry as a whole in Iceland. We used to be, most of our existence, affiliated with what's called the United Nations University, but now we are affiliated with UNESCO. And this slide lists our main activities, or the services, we can say, that we offer today. Our core activity is what we call the 6-month training program, where we bring a group of people from the developing countries to Iceland for almost 6 months, where they go through this intense training. And in recent years, we have been able to bring about 25 people, or fellows, as we call them, to Iceland. And since 1979, we have trained 790 scientists and engineers from 65 countries. So, and I'll show you a little bit more on that in the next slides. But in addition to this, which is actually our core activity, what we do every year and have done our whole existence, we also provide support for, let's say, the best of the 6-month fellows to come back to Iceland and to go or study for a master's or PhD at the universities here in Reykjavik. And we support them financially, but the training is through the universities. And through this, we have supported about 86 graduates, mostly master students. And I think at the moment, 17 are here in Iceland working on their degrees. But then in addition to that, we also offer short courses on location, mostly in different countries. And through these short courses, about 2,000 participants have been involved. We also are trying to support sort of more local training centers in different parts of the world. And the most notable is in El Salvador. We're also starting to support such a center or training course in China. There is also one being set up in Kenya, just to name some examples. And then we are also involved in other training activity, like setting up short courses for different customers at their request. And we're also, mainly since COVID, been experimenting with online courses. This map shows where our fellows, or the fellows that come for the 6-month training, where they come from. And at a first glance, it looks like it covers the whole world, but if you look closely, it doesn't quite do that. But it is, of course, developing countries through the history. And you see, for example, in Europe, we have trained quite a lot of people from Eastern Europe. They were classified as developing countries some decades back, but they're not, or at least very few of them are classified as that today. But if you look closely, you see the number of fellows from different countries behind the name. And Kenya actually has the greatest number of fellows trained, 152 out of the 790. And then we have countries like, you see, China, 92, and then other countries maybe close to 50, like El Salvador, Indonesia, Philippines, and other countries. So, and as I said before, these are 65 countries. There are, of course, countries where, for various reasons, there have only come very few, and some countries where we have only one fellow yet, but hopefully more in the future. This shows a comparison of the first group and the most recent group to graduate. At the bottom is a 2023 group, which had 24 fellows. And you see marked with the red circles there, the 2 fellows in the first year, which were a man and a woman from the Philippines. We, of course, when GTP started out, people were quite convinced that this would be beneficial. And we have definitely, through the years, become more and more convinced that this has been extremely beneficial. And we see it in so many ways. We see it by following sort of geothermal development in the world. We see it by talking to our former fellows, which we do a lot. And, with modern, the internet and social media, this has become so much easier than it was to stay in touch with the former fellows. And many of our former fellows have become real sort of geothermal leaders in their home countries. Then we can also look at different countries and say, there has been this very rapid development in different countries, and we can claim a tiny bit of credit for that. And one example is Kenya, which has grown quite rapidly in installed capacity in recent years. And having trained 152 people from Kenya, I think we can certainly claim a little bit of credit there. But the only problem there is now Kenya has surpassed Iceland in installed capacity. So that's sort of the downside of that. And I mentioned some other points there. I don't think in this set of slides, because I tried to make it short, I didn't mention one thing which Ása mentioned in the beginning. We have always, and I think from the beginning, emphasized gender equality and tried to bring in women into the program. And this, as you can imagine, especially in the past, and it still is difficult. It takes a lot of convincing. And through the years, the ratio has been like 25% on the average women and 75% men. But we are, in recent years, have been moving closer to equality. In 2021, we reached, I think, 49%. And this year, we'll have 14 women and 12 men. And for me, it's a victory, and I'm very, very proud of that. But to us, the future looks bright. There is at least tremendous need for this training, and we're basically just going to continue what we have been doing. Put continued emphasis on 6-month training. We're trying to sort of bring in new countries, but we're also focusing a lot on non-volcanic resources and direct use instead of volcanic resources and electricity generation. And there are sort of regions in the world where there has been very little geothermal development, where we are trying to have a small effect or small impact, like in Central Asia, South America. And we're going to continue emphasizing master's and PhD scholarships. And one of our PhD scholars is going to talk a little bit later in the session. We're always trying to sort of increase the emphasis on short courses on location, because this way we can reach a larger audience. Our main focus has been on Africa and Latin America. We're hoping to emphasize Asia a little bit more. And as much as we can, we're going to be supporting local and regional training centers and hopefully increase our online training as well. And then finally, just a few words on the future. Because this activity, like what I've been talking about, there is, of course, other activity you will be hearing just in a few minutes about Iceland School of Energy, which, even though it's different from us, has the same goal. So we definitely need to increase this sort of training activity. We also need to bring somehow geothermal more into the mainstream curriculum of universities, because there are really very few universities which have kind of geothermal programs. And then just spreading the word any way we can, and here the internet can help us today. So I'm going to stop here. And thank you, and we're open to discussions.
So any questions for? Oh, I have an idea. I have a question about the online training.
Okay.
Because online training has a lot of must offer a lot of more impact and a lot of opportunities. So how are you going to utilize that in the future?
Well, what I can say is that we have really just started, and the last few years we've offered just sort of some basic courses, rather short courses, or 2-day courses on all aspects of geothermal, sort of aimed at people that don't know too much about geothermal. But this way we are of course able to reach a much larger audience. But then there are really endless possibilities to continue focusing on that, reaching sort of the world more in a general sense, or focusing on something very specific, a special topic within geothermal, specialization. And as I say, there are endless possibilities. We can also have this more interactive, with even project work, and have it extend over longer periods where people would then interact with their lecturers, listen to lectures, work on projects, and then even, for a while, work on something at home and then get back online later on to present their projects and interact with the teachers. So endless possibilities, I think.
And well, I think we all agree that geothermal energy could play a more important role in the world's energy mix. And as you said, it's not very known. How can we make it more known? And what have been and will be the greatest hurdles to making it a more important role in the energy mix?
Yeah, I mean, that's a big question. That's what, always, for us working in the geothermal industry, this is so obvious, But when you start to talk to people, even just in Iceland or other places in the world, it's always surprising, how little people know about geothermal. And, it's, through, somehow we have to advertise it. Somehow we have to get through to governments, because we have to start there. But it's also the general public. It's the science community. We have to reach out somehow, and of course we can do a lot through training like we're doing. So, and setting up more training programs like this. But as I mentioned in my final slide, bringing it more into the sort of mainstream curriculum of the universities would also be very, very helpful.
And how does the program ensure that it remains at the cutting edge of geothermal education and technology?
Well, first of all, maybe through this big group of experts that help us. I mean, they try and stay in touch, not because of us, but because of their geothermal work they are doing every day, but also by staying in touch with our, the institutes and governments we are cooperating with, talking to them, trying to do that, and maybe last but not least, by talking to our students or our fellows.
Okay. You guys have any questions?
Is the 6-month program enough to be good in building a power plant?
No, but it's a very good beginning, And if like in Kenya, I mean, when you have trained 150 people from a country, most of them from the same energy company, which is involved in building. So then it helps a lot. But of course, there's so much involved in building a power plant. You need a lot of outside help from engineers, advisors, and so on. But it's a good beginning.
Any more questions? Maybe one final from me. So where does the main potential for increased use in geothermal energy lie? In near future and maybe a more distant one? Easy questions.
Yeah. We can look at geothermal in two ways. It's sort of the geothermal systems we all know. We go to the spas connected to the hot springs or use the hot water for space heating, as we do here in Iceland. There's, of course, a lot of geothermal like that, which we call sort of conventional geothermal, that where we have the technology, we have the know-how to do it tomorrow, and there's still a lot of that in the world. But then the question is the future. I mean, geothermal energy is basically all the thermal energy that is stored in the Earth's crust and flows through the Earth's crust. And people may not realize that this is so enormous that if we could use, for example, I don't know, it's less than 1% of the energy in the Earth's crust, it would be enough energy for mankind for thousands of years or even more.
Right.
But then there are maybe other frontiers like geothermal out in the oceans. There's a lot of geothermal out in the oceans, and deep drilling. There are also in the Earth's crust, there are lots of sedimentary basins which have permeable layers at great depth. Some places this is already used, but there is great potential there in the future to use this as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker, again with the slides. Yes, our next speaker is Juliet Newson. Juliet is the director of the Iceland School of Energy at Reykjavík University. She will be telling us about the dwindling interest in geoscience and what actions they are doing, taking to counteract that in the long term. On a side note, Juliet has a unique and fascinating hobby. She collects antique mirrors from the 50s and 60s with sandblasted pictures on them, as well as commemorative plates from Iceland. Welcome, Juliet.
Thank you. So,
here we go.
there we go. Okay, we're all go. Okay. Thank you, everybody. Okay, so I'm going to talk about the graduate courses that we run in geothermal at the Iceland School of Energy. I would just like to point out that the Iceland School of Energy is a graduate school teaching renewable energy, so predominantly master's students and PhDs, some PhDs. The geothermal students are usually around about half of our total student body. In the last year, we actually had a decrease in interest and we really freaked out. But this year, the next intake has actually sort of rebalanced, and we think again we'll have about half of our intake who are interested in studying geothermal. But nonetheless, we did take this time this year to kind of revisit our courses and think, you know, is there anything we could do better? What would industry like us to do, and this sort of thing. So, one other thing. So, my own personal background is that although I'm the director of the school that deals with all renewable energies, I am a geologist and a geothermal reservoir modeller. So I have a BSc in geology, and then I changed to engineering and did a master's and a PhD in engineering school in reservoir simulation. So I think I've got some background to talk about this. Okay, so I'm just going to talk about our students for a start. So we have students from all over the world. The majority actually come from the US. Oh, these are our geothermal students, so around about half our student body. The largest group comes from the US, the next largest from within Iceland itself. And actually, can we have the lights? Can I dim the lights a little bit? So, the next largest group would be Canada. And Colombia, and then Kenya. A lot of the people from Kenya are actually originally from Goodney's Grow GTP group. Okay, thanks very much. And similarly, the Indonesian students are usually coming through the Grow GTP program into a master's degree. And then students from many other countries. And how many, and what is the gender balance here? So this is the student group from 2015 to last year. This is where we have the best statistics. And you can see, well, we don't quite have a 50-50 balance, but we think we're doing pretty well. 37% women over this entire period, and occasionally we've had majority women in the geothermal class. I believe there is 81 students over that time period that have gone through our geothermal courses. I would suspect this is the biggest of any master's program in the world teaching geothermal. And this is very recent data. My colleague has been doing a master's just looking at renewable energy education, and he showed me this graph, so I decided to put it up here. And it's a little bit complicated, so I've shaded the important part. The first part is where our students come from in terms of undergraduate degrees, and there's almost every discipline there. They go into Masters in Sustainable Energy Engineering or Energy Science, and then some also do an electric power degree. And then the dark lines on the right-hand side show where the geothermal students in that cohort go to, and they go into the utilities, basically. So basically electricity generation or heat provision. And then from the utilities, we've got a breakdown of what sort of jobs they go into, and I'm going to have to come away from that microphone. So they go into the project management specialties, sustainability. Chief executives is a bit of an extreme description. These are people who might start their own businesses. So these are small businesses. Of course, drilling, some go into electrical engineering, and then there's the big cohort of geoscientists and geothermal production, which would probably be the engineers. So this is where our students actually go. Okay, so what do we teach? So this is what we have been teaching up to last year. And the way we organise it, we have 2 semesters of lectures, and this is the geothermal component. I mean, our students also study other aspects of renewable energy, especially in the first semester. But in terms of geothermal, they have their first exposure to geothermal is in our field school when they arrive, which is an intensive introduction to Iceland, really. Then, if they're engineers, we actually teach them some geology, so they're able to take geothermal geoscience courses, because geothermal is very multidisciplinary, and we like our students to have a sort of a well-rounded background. And then we teach a conceptual modelling course, which is about how geothermal systems work overall. So it's about the sort of circulation pattern, what you might see at the surface and how it relates to the subsurface. And we use the geological modelling program from Sequent, Leapfrog Geothermal, to teach a lot of this. And then in the next semester, we have had a full geothermal curriculum. So if you wanted to study geothermal, you did geothermal geoscience, you could do reservoir engineering, drilling, and then if you were really keen, you would do geothermal reservoir simulation or modelling. And in fact, there's also a course in power plant design, which is taught by a geothermal engineer, so it's like got a bit of a slant to geothermal as well. And at that time you come out and you're pretty ready to kind of get a job in geothermal. Of course, the next year you also do a thesis. So what else could I say about that? The courses have been generally lecture-based and then assignments. And then there's, of course, practical modelling work for the modelling courses. And we thought about this, and we thought, we're really sectioning off the geothermal students, you know, and we're not like giving our other students a chance to sort of dip their toes into geothermal topics. So starting in the fall semester this year, we have more geothermal in our energy field school. We'll talk a lot more about Iceland's geothermal resources and do more field exercises and field visits. We'll keep the energy geology course because this is good for engineers, or we think so. Some of the engineers are quite puzzled by this, but they get through. And we'll keep the conceptual modelling course. We also have a course in geothermal innovation, and then maybe some special topics in geothermal that people can also just take as standalone courses. As we have visiting experts, it's always good to get them in and get them talking to students. And so we're organising it so other students can take these just as part of their courses, their optional courses, electives. And in the spring semester, we're also offering a special topic in geothermal, which will probably next year, next spring, will be in the realm of drilling and well-designed topics. And for this, we're going to look at more reading-based courses, so actually looking at the literature and the latest science and engineering publications and understanding the cutting edge more. And finally, of course, this is thesis output. I went through and tried to sort of tease out what topics people covered in their thesis. That's our geothermal students. So this is our geothermal student output, again from 2015 to 2023. And you can see actually the big green bands, that's resource modelling. So that actually is sort of a double whammy because it covers the geological and 3D conceptual models of how systems work, and it also covers reservoir simulation. Indeed, we also have CO2 there, which of course is mostly projects related to geochemistry and carb fix, and a lot of that is also, of course, reservoir simulation and geochemical simulations and topics. But apart from that, I think we have a pretty well-rounded kind of range of topics here, and so we produce students from a lot of different specialties. But the one thing that we try and give them is an overview of the whole geothermal industry. So when they do get a job, they can be in a meeting and they can be quite junior. So, when you're junior, you're sort of sitting there thinking, oh my gosh, everybody knows more than me. But that you actually do realise what everyone else is doing in their job, like what they're contributing to the project. We also try and organise a lot of site visits to different sites in Iceland and actually in Europe as well. So when people talk about different projects, you can think, okay, I know what they're talking about. I've been there, right? And it's just giving a little bit of confidence and a little bit of context, even when you're starting the job, that I think really makes a difference. So that's overall our philosophy. Thank you. Yes, we welcome questions from the community. Those are some of the commemorative plates that I've collected from Iceland. So, thank you.
So, any questions for Juliet?
Do you have a pipeline of internship possibilities for your students to work for local companies?
Yeah, we do. The engineering department at Reykjavik University is in charge of that, so they organise the internships. But yeah, many of our students get internships either through the university or they actually go out and make their own contacts. So yeah, and they get credit for an internship. Yeah.
In your graph of thesis topics, you had carbon dioxide that popped up a couple of places. I'm curious if you could speak to the level of interest among the students in carbon management as sort of a career path, and what you see as the relationship between that and your geothermal.
Yeah. Okay. So most of the projects that were in that graph are related to carb fix, and in fact, carb fix employs quite a few of our students. And we have students who are still interested in this. This is one of their motivations for coming. And you're absolutely right about the general interest in carbon management does exist outside of the geothermal courses, like for our other students. So yes, we do have students that are interested in that and interested in carb fix in particular, or in this sort of carbon sequestration in other places. So I guess it's yes. Yeah. Yeah.
So is that a reason for the decline, you think, or
We're not sure. We did have a decline in students after COVID, and I think that partly related to the economic conditions. It's actually a change. So there's been a change in the way that the reasons, we think, for students registering or not. Before COVID, you could actually see a very clear relationship with oil prices. So if there was a dip in oil prices and it was hard to get jobs in the oil industry, then renewable energy students would increase. So it was inversely proportional to oil. After COVID, that doesn't really seem to be the point. I think there's a more general feeling that renewable energy is super important and the energy transition is important. But at the same time, economic conditions have been quite hard. I would point out that we're still cheaper than most options to do a master's degree in America. So this is one of the reasons that we get American students. The other thing is that Iceland is, even though it's expensive to live, it's perceived as a safe country and a slightly adventurous country as well, you know, with the great outdoors kind of feeling and definitely the chance for a lot of outdoors occupations and a lot of excitement. So that attracts a certain type of student who are possibly more adventurous than average. So we've got all those factors of Iceland being famous for renewable energy, famous for adventure, famous for being safe, as opposed to, okay, quite a high cost of living, but the degree is cheaper than in America. So, yeah, you've got to balance all these out, and I think our students consider all these factors before they turn up.
Thank you. We are sort of I have to be better with time management. Next, we have Charlotte Barrow. Charlotte is a former student who now holds a master's degree in renewable energy sciences from the University of Iceland. Last year, she received the incentive award from the Icelandic Energy Cluster for her master's project, where she evaluated the geochemical feasibility of employing carbon mineralization practices at the Olkaria geothermal plant in Kenya. On a personal note, Charlotte loves cooking and is firmly against Friday evening deadlines, which I think we can all agree upon.
I think they should be strictly Monday afternoon or Thursday afternoon.
Oh, can't open it. Sorry, it's not opening correctly. Here? Yeah. So speak about you. Hey. That's okay.
Okay. Hi, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here. And as Ausa said, it's really because of the Iceland Renewable Energy Cluster that I'm here to present, I guess, my feedback of being a student in Iceland. So many of the questions that Juliet just answered, I would also be capable of answering given my own experience. So at the moment, I'm now actually working for an energy research company in the UK. As a senior analyst, so I've moved more into the energy economics side of the equation. But I'm mostly going to speak about what my motivation for coming to Iceland to do geothermal sciences was how I got there and why I've now pivoted more to economics. So firstly, just a personal introduction and really to kind of provide the basis for how I got into the position to studying here. So not going too far back, because I don't think you care about where I went to primary school, but my BSc was at the University of St Andrews in Scotland. I'm actually a British South African by background. My family's from South Africa, but they had me in the UK. So I had the privilege of being a local student in Scotland and doing geology. And really, in my time during those studies, I was actually more angling myself towards a career in mining, because this seemed to me and my father the most appropriate way of utilizing geology. So during that time, I had two experiences on the African continent in my summers. So the first one being looking at lithium and tantalum greenfield exploration mining in Zimbabwe, which was a wonderful experience working with a private company called Bakita Minerals, since being bought out by a Chinese mining company, which is largely the story for lots of mining companies in Africa. And the second internship was with a large corporation called Glencore, and this was really in the platinum belt in South Africa, but this was not for mining platinum, but this is more for chrome, which is used to treat kind of alloys in steel production. And the second of these internships was an underground internship for about 6 weeks. And it was during this time that really I had the feeling that mining was not the area in which I wanted to make my contribution in the world, for a large number of reasons, in fact, and I was really kind of angling for a way out of mining and trying to utilize my degree more for kind of climate and social good. And so it was during that time in South Africa that I was actually looking for opportunities to further my studies more on a kind of greener pathway. And that's when I started looking towards geothermal energy as a potential option for me to kind of further my understanding of geology and apply it elsewhere. So why Iceland? Really in that final year of my studies, we did a field trip to the Alps, and at one of the outcrops we were joined by a visiting professor, Dr. Kevin Burton, who's a geochemist at Durham. And it was at one of these mafic and ultramafic outcrops that he mentioned, just as a minor tidbit, that there are these scientists in Iceland that are looking at how we can use ultramafic rocks to store carbon. And I didn't understand why none of my peers were really cluing on to the fact that this is super interesting. And so as the field trip developed, I think it was on the next day, I found a hiking opportunity to force Kevin Burton to talk to me for about an hour whilst we hiked up to a tin mine, and he was going to tell me all about what he was talking about, these Icelandic scientists. And so I wrote a review paper which was called The Application of Basaltic Rock for Long-Term Carbon Storage, and I decided that if all of these scientists are coming from Háskóli Íslands, that I should go to Háskóli Íslands and I should do a master's thesis and try and get these experts to be my supervisors, and this was my best angle or best bet to get involved in CarbFix, which Juliet spoke of. I did a number of things whilst I was here in Iceland, and I think this is a good example of the opportunities and collaborations that you can make yourself if you have the verve to do so. So the Ranes Student Innovation Fund is a great way in which students can get funding to do interesting research projects. So I did this in the summer of 2021, whilst I was additionally working as a summer student for CarbFix with one of Juliet's old students, Matti. He was also there at the same time as me. And now, for mainly personal reasons, I've actually pivoted back to the UK and have now tried to explore the field of energy economics as really a driver for decarbonization. Okay. So just so that this talk is not me, I'm going to talk also about what my master thesis was, as it was a real treat and pleasure to actually get involved in for a year. I think that was another draw to Iceland, is the fact that you do 1 year of studies and 1 year of pure research. So you can actually get a taste for if you want to kind of pursue academia further into PhD studies by having this year to really flex your muscles into academia. So the motivation of coming to Iceland was really to widen my application of geology for climate good, to gain expertise in carbon capture and storage mineralization. And I think given the ish background I had in exploration geology, trying to apply that mindset of developing an exploration toolkit towards carbon capture and storage seemed like an easy approach to the topic. So whether that be through literature and trying to work out through maps where the youngest, less deformed basalts were going to be, so they're going to have larger pore spaces to sequester carbon in. So literature, FreakC, which is a geochemical modeling program, reactive transport modeling, and also just to note here what open access tools are available. So there's a lot of software packages which are quite expensive, and although you can sometimes get student licenses to use them, often, Petrel is one that I can think of, not really in the theme of geothermal sciences, but these are big prices to pay for software where all you really want to do is just play around and see what you can do. So being able to use FreakC, I also used Watch, which is another program developed by Icelanders for my project. This just all seemed like a very supportive environment to do my studies in. I'm just going to have a sip of water here. So then, in terms of the research motivation, and I would say that I actually had really planned out my whole thesis before even arriving to Iceland. So really the course aspect of that first year was just to kind of increase my understanding of the subject matter, but really I was already guns blazing for what it was I wanted to do. And this was, it seemed to me that CCM had been a proven, fast, effective way to sequester carbon dioxide, but really its application had been exclusively limited to Iceland. And I think that still stands at the moment, although they have some MOUs with other countries. I think in the US they're looking into some collaborations, as well as Kenya now as well. But in terms of selecting Kenya as my case study, I think having my, at least part of my heart in the African continent, it seemed like this could be a really interesting way to combine my academic interests with my personal interests. Kenya is a really exciting country in the fact that it has these large geothermal resources, and its energy demand is expected to increase sevenfold in the next 15 years or so. And there also appears to be this driver from a political level to enhance their geothermal capabilities. So I think in Gudni's slide, he showed that they're sitting about 870 megawatts in installed electric capacity, and they have a goal to make this 5 gigawatts by 2030. I'm not sure how close they have become in realizing this, but this is a big goal, and this is at least demonstrates a political will to go there. So it would be a great way to kind of apply both drawing these emissions, or these cumulative emissions, which would then derive from an increase in geothermal installed capacities, and store them, and also to create a narrative around kind of carbon capture and storage on the African continent, which is often missed out of this kind of equation. So I'm going to very briefly touch on an aspect of the project, which was the majority aspect of the project, which was my kind of conceptual geochemical model. There are many steps for my calculations in determining whether the science works, i.e. if you inject CO2 into the subsurface, is it actually going to stay there and be locked in carbonate minerals? So I'm highlighting here kind of 3 calculation steps. So the first was determining what that kind of background deep reservoir fluid composition was, determining what hypothetical CO2 charged injection fluid would be like in terms of its chemical composition, and then allowing that fluid to interact with the host rock as well as those background fluids. And what was really fantastic about this project is the collaboration I was able to foster with KenGen, who's a main electricity provider in Kenya, I think, in fact, Kizito Opondo, he might have even been a GROW GTP student. He's now one of key geochemists at KenGen, and he was providing me with well-discharged fluid data, steam compositions, and particularly given it was the time of COVID, I was very grateful for the fact that they so openly were able to provide me with this data to do this project. I'm not going to go through this figure in great detail because I did so for some professors at Oxford even, and they told me, am I too stupid to understand what's going on here? The answer is no, it's just a whole thesis on one page, essentially. But essentially, I did want to kind of give you at least a taste of what my key finding was, which was that basalt-hosted CCM in this particular area of Kenya, the dome sector, which is hosted within the Olkaria geothermal field, could store, theoretically, up to 84% of the injected carbon. And if anyone's interested in the science behind this, feel free to grab me afterwards and we can discuss this figure in a bit more detail. But this is kind of what an outcome of a master's thesis can look like. Finally, and really this helps me kind of link together why I had an interest to move outside of maybe specializing in geothermal energy and more to a broader context of energy economics as a whole, and essentially trying to drive the largest impact that I personally can have in my career and to start broader. So the geochemical feasibility aspect was the main scientific aspect of the project. But I was also interested in answering some key questions which seem very obvious to me. I think often in academia we can get so focused on the specifics of science, chemistry, physics, whatever it might be, but actually the people that need to be spoken to and convinced are often people that are not from technical backgrounds. And so you need to also speak their language and to try and convince them as to why this project is important. So as part of that, I tried to answer a few questions, one of them being, if we look at the total emissions of this project as a whole, or of this geothermal power plant, by injecting the CO2 of this project and storing it underground, how much is that CO2 actually contributing to the overall total project emissions? Is this a net benefit? Is it having a large enough impact to warrant the effort of going to set up this infrastructure? So I utilized the UNFCCC's CDM methodology to essentially calculate the annual project emissions of this geothermal plant and compare this with my own calculations to see what the overall impact was going to be on the project. I also looked at what some of the safety aspects and risks could be of injecting CO2 in the area from mostly a chemical perspective, but also thinking about in a place like Kenya where water is more scarce, how are you going to manage your water in a place like this? What's the policy environment in Kenya? Does general policy act to inhibit movement to cleaner technologies? I come from South Africa, which is an 80% coal electricity mix. Much of our economy is set up on coal, and so there is a little bit of an internal struggle between old fossil fuels and renewable energy generation. So it's useful to understand what is the political willpower for change and taking these innovative technologies further. And another touch here on the GROW GTP program is that I was able to collaborate with ex-students, so Dr. Tekla Mutia, who's now working as a senior environmental scientist at the Geothermal Development Company, and Dr. Pacifica Ogola, who's a director of climate change for the Ministry of Environment and Forestry in Kenya. I'd conducted a series of interviews with them to understand what their hot take was on the policy climate there. So very great to kind of see this collaboration between Iceland and Kenya potentially moving forward on carbon capture and mineralization storage. And then finally, trying to identify who is actually going to fund a pilot project like this. Is it going to come from a multilateral mechanism, i.e. something through the UN, larger organizations, or could it come from bilateral mechanisms, individual company groups, KenGen Carbfix, KenGen Reykjavik Energy, Iceland, Kenya, So this was another question I aimed to answer in this thesis. So it was actually really fun, in a way, to have a project that was so diverse. So beyond academia, I think personal reasons are often a big contributor to how your paths are made within your career. My partner is based in the UK. He's also a geologist. He's in his final year of his PhD at Oxford. And so I knew I wanted to stay within the sector, but doing long distance for 2 years during COVID had had its time. And so I was really looking for a way in which I could stay within the energy sector, but essentially move towards Oxford and also try and broaden my foundational time, because really the first few years, again, a sentiment from my father, it's not about the money in the bank, it's about the knowledge and experience that you're growing in the first 5 to 10 years. So I now work for a global organization. We provide essentially power market analytics for countries all across the world to essentially support whether it is transaction work, so providing them with the data to understand how their assets are going to perform over time, what their IRRs are going to be. We also are looking at, so it's a number of different technologies. It's not, this was also a great pull of mine, was to look outside of just geothermal industry, but into other clean energy technologies, as geothermal energy is a great resource in areas where you can utilize it. However, it's not always applicable in all areas of the world, at least economically speaking right now, perhaps. So in terms of me trying to widen my footprint early on in my career, conducting economic research for a company, looking at all aspects of the energy value chain is kind of where I've decided to start my career. So thank you so much for listening.
We're getting short on time, but do you have any questions from the audience? I have one question. Has there been any further movement or discussions outside your thesis work expanding carbon mineralization in Kenya?
It's actually quite interesting. So about a year into starting my job, so I read The Economist. It's great. It's a great paper. And I saw about two columns talking about the Great Carbon Valley and how scientists are looking into this area in the world to be a potential area to store carbon, but mostly from DACs, so direct air carbon capture. And really this incited this excitement all over again, and thinking, oh, maybe I should have really stuck to my guns over there and kept pushing this forward. But it's really exciting to see that people are really looking into this quite seriously. There's been a number of companies that have been set up in Kenya to explore this. So Octavia Carbon states a goal of wanting to become operational with a DAX plant storing carbon by 2025. Then the Great Carbon Valley actually registered as a company, and they have a 1 million tons of CO2 per year by 2030 goal. There's various collaborations, whether it's with CarbFix as well as Climeworks, looking at how they can best utilize this basaltic resource, but for carbon storage. So yeah, there's been developments. So yeah, it's cool.
But I think CarbFix is always looking for people, so you are welcome back probably. And
I know them well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But thank you.
Thank you so much.
I'm really bad at holding all these papers. Let's see if I can figure out the computer. Extend. Am I doing it right? Yes. Okay. Our next speaker. Nope. Nothing's happening. It's frozen. Anyway, I will just start the introduction. Our next speaker is Patrick Mwansa. Patrick is a PhD student at the University of Iceland, where his doctoral research focuses on the surface geothermal exploration using remote sensing. Today, he will explore the vital role of geothermal education and capacity building initiatives in fostering sustainable development in developing regions. On a personal note, Patrick is an avid reader and a rock collector. His pet peeve is seeing people confidently present a piece of quartz and insisting it's a diamond. Welcome, Patrick.
Thank you.
You don't have the slides? Patrick, you. Yes,
Finally.
amazing. I'm just going to take one paper now. Learn from my mistakes.
Yeah. So, thank you very much. I'm so happy today to be in this session. I will just talk about empowering community geothermal. Inside there, I will talk about geothermal education and capacity building initiative in the developing region. We know that geothermal energy, it's a new energy. As a new energy, the developing country need to know more about that if they need to use it. If we need also to travel to the energy transition, we have also to know more about our geothermal energy if we can use it in the future. So that's why I'm from one of the developing country, Congo, DRC. As Budni shown you here in the slide, I'm the only one fellow came here in Iceland for 6 months training. After that, for master's degree, now I'm doing a PhD. So you can imagine the challenge that I have to help my country to improve our knowledge on geothermal energy. So the big challenge, so the outline of my presentation is just to understand the challenge if we need to develop or to know more about geothermal energy, and also to the initiative that we can make for develop that challenge or to change it, the success of story and the case study. This one, it's very, very, very important for me because I'm the product, and then the future direction of that. After that, I will make a bit a conclusion. So, first one, we have to know more about the challenge. This one is just the main challenge that we have. The first one is a lack of awareness and understanding of geothermal energy. So, why? Because many of community in the developing country, they doesn't know more about geothermal energy. As my case, when I came here in 2015. But first one, I went to Kenya for 21 days training. This one, it was for me like geothermal energy. Yes, I have to know more about that. It was like an introduction of geothermal energy. But when I went back to my country, I was just talking about geothermal, but I got a lot of questions. Geothermal, yes, geothermal, what does it mean? Even our government, it was like, we don't know about this one. We cannot support that. Because I know that is one of our developing countries. But one of the problem was that my country is one of the African country who has the first power plant. During I think it was at 2050, had the first power plant in Africa. But that power plant just worked for almost like 5 years, and then done, stop. And from 1955 up to now, we didn't know about that. It was like a gap between 1955 up to now. And actually, I cannot say the only one. It's like I have a lot of power, but I'm one of the people that can pushing our government and university sector and other people that to use geothermal energy. That was one of the big problem in the developing country. Another case is also limited technical expertise and skilled workforce. This part also is very important, like a challenge, because if we need to develop geothermal energy, we have to have knowledge. We need to have experience. And if we don't have experience, we cannot make anything on geothermal energy as a new energy. That's why this one is also a challenge that you need to work on. And another challenge is a socioeconomical barrier. In this case, there is a financial problem because you know that the developing country, sometimes they don't have a lot of money, or geothermal energy need money for developing. The first step of geothermal exploration need a lot of money. But the developing country have problem with this case. That's why we have to work also on that if we need to change. It's one of the big barrier also. But inside there is also policy and some official document that we have also to improve. But developing country, in the beginning, they don't have it. And then we have to work also on that. This one, it's like the main challenge that we have in the developing country. So, how we can improve this challenge? The initiative. This one is also like the main initiative that we have to work on. First one, we have a community-based education program. This one is very, very, very important because we have the government have to work together with the private sector, not just with the private sector, with the university also sometimes, but they have to work together. This one is like in the local, in the region. And the second one is like the vocation training and skill development. This one is also very important, as I will show you when I will show the next slide. But we need also to participate in the workshop, in the training regarding geothermal energy if we need to know more. It's also very important. And another thing is a capacity building partnership. In this part, it's like some collaboration that we can have, like country by country, as we saw in the beginning of the program of today. China with Iceland, they work together, and we can see the results. But this one is also important if we need to develop our geothermal capacity. We create a partnership between international organization, government, or private sector entity. This one can help to know more about geothermal building, geothermal education, or building capacity in general. So some of case that we have, example case we have. First one, as I told you in the beginning, I'm one of the product of international partnership, GoGTP. This one is just the picture that you can see. This one, I took it, I think it was not 2012, but 2015, no, 2011, I think, no, 2012. I'm here also, I'm here, you can see, it was in Kenya. It was in Kenya. My the first training that I get on geothermal energy. This one was like a window for me, or door for me, open for me this new opportunity. But it's not just GoGTP. I can maybe say one thing on this partnership. I think this GoGTP training program, it's very important, not just for supporting 6 months training or master's degree. They have also to support more PhD students, because it's very, very important, because in the developing country, sometimes they don't have a professor with geothermal education expertise. That means that if we have to go fastly in the energy transition, go using geothermal energy, we have to have many professors with geothermal background. That means that we have to support a lot of PhD students. So I think behind just inside of Gojitip, there also JICA supporting also some training. If I have a good memory. So another case is a community driver. This one also is one of the example in Philippines and Indonesia, if I can say like that, where the government say that they have to develop some small scaling geothermal development. This one is one of the good case also, because it can push some community to work together and make the energy together for developing geothermal energy. And the last one is geothermal education and outreach initiative in Latin America. This one, I think I got one paper, it was documents regarding Andea community with Bolivia, Peru, something like that, but they are working together for developing geothermal energy. This one, this initiative is very, very nice because they are making the knowledge together for pushing development of geothermal energy in the sector. So the future direction. The future direction of geothermal energy is first one, the sustainability and scalability. For this case, we have to continue with capacity building supporting. We have to continue with that and work together. That can help to improve our knowledge, the knowledge in the developing country. And also inclusive growth. This one is also very important because we remember in the beginning of the day, I think they talk about that. We need to support also gender in our field. So to supporting gender, we have to go like a 50-50, or the gender must go up because as they say, that the mother is the key of the world. Sometimes in my culture they are saying like that. That means that if we need to go fastly in the energy transition, we have to support mother. And also the policy and support and funding. This one also is one of the big challenge that we have to work on, because it's so difficult for the developing country to have access to the funding. It's so difficult. Then if they make it a little bit easily, it will help the developing country to get money, because to know more about the geothermal need also to have money. And if we make money in the developing country, that means that in the future, many countries will make effort to develop geothermal in the future. So in conclusion, we have just to know that geothermal education and capacity building initiative have the potential. First one, to empower community in developing region. And the second one, to contribute to the global energy transition. And the last one, to drive sustainable development. And if we try to make these three things together, it will help us to change and to go fastly in the energy transition. We have all to work together and supporting geothermal education and building capacity. Thank you very much.
So really quickly, any questions for Patrick? I have one, if you could answer it really quickly, because we're so short on time. And it's each question then. How can community-based education programs effectively raise awareness and understanding of geothermal energy among local populations in developing regions?
Yes. I think your response is just the summaries of your responses in this slide.
Yeah.
So first one, we have just to go to the community-based education, to work on that. Second one, to make like a vocation training and skill development. And the first one, the capacity building. This one is the key point of that can help us to develop our geothermal energy in the developing country. If I can just say like that. Yeah.
Short and sweet. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Let's see. Am I just really bad at technology? Why doesn't this? Ah, there it is. Okay, our final speaker. Please welcome Dr. Hariri Arifin. He's an associate professor at University Kebangsaan, Malaysia. Am I saying it correctly? Where he has been actively involved in geothermal research and education. Hariri will share Malaysia's geothermal journey, highlighting their achievements and the challenges they have overcome. On an interesting fact about Hariri. During a visit to a geothermal site in Malaysia, his feet sunk into the very soft and very hot ground, and eventually his feet were burnt. So let's do this. Please welcome Hariri.
Okay. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum and good morning, everyone. So thank you to our moderator. This is our topic today. So I think the time is less than 10 minutes, right? So I'll try my best. But anyway, before I start, I think I'd like to thank to our main sponsor for this event, actually from Petronas. And then the rest is our collaborator from SEDA, and then from JMG, and of course from our university. So all my team is there. You can catch up with them if you have any question. All right. Okay, so basically, yeah, everyone talk about this item, but of course, Malaysia, we don't have yet any kilowatt or big dream, maybe giga or mega, whatever. So I like to make sure that maybe one day we start with the kilowatt first, and then hopefully we join all the in country. I mean, in terms of energy contribution to green energy, hopefully, yeah, Malaysia can contribute something. And then, yeah, this is a summary provided by Akmal, my PhD student. So we start from actually 1970, and then we slowly grow, and then we work together, especially with the SEDA, JMG, and of course others, university. And this year actually with the Petronas, we work together to study more detail about one location in Malaysia, and then hopefully this developing country can have their first geothermal power plant very soon. But I'm not sure. We try to put target maybe by 2030. I'm not sure. The drilling program still not start yet. And then, oh sorry, what happened to this slide?
Like I said,
Yeah.
technology is not really. No. Yeah.
Very fast.
There you go.
Is it? I use this one.
Yeah, I'm supposed to.
This one. Okay. Slowly press maybe. Okay. So this is example from previous study. Yeah, maybe from what we call it English guy, and then yeah, they report in this example from BIN, and then from JMG, they not just start maybe 2008, but at the bottom basically they have a lot of study there, and then of course we exchange our interest, our finding, and then next one, this one from my professor. He study about tourism, and then we try to focus on this that time. And then what I can say now for Malaysia, most of the hot spring site basically we focus for tourism aspect only, not for the energy. And then myself in 2018 we cover this one of location in Malaysia, but still no progress because actually we need a lot of budget for proof of concept. So we work with SEDA now to make sure that maybe one day we have a mini geothermal power plant to prove that, yeah, we can switch on the light from the hot spring, right? And then on the right section is from my PhD work. Okay, so this one, yeah, we try to understand the hot spring distribution. So at the end of the opening ceremony event, we pass one book to our IGA president. So all the hot spring distribution basically we try to update and then to understand the distribution and then how they form. So like my student, we have Akmal, so we try to divide them become maybe in the Western Belt, Central Belt and Eastern Belt for Peninsular Malaysia. But in short, basically we have more than 100 locations. Hot spring in Peninsula and of course in Sabah and Sarawak, which is Borneo Park. And then the next one, basically we, as I mentioned earlier, we have collaboration with the government agencies like MISA and also JMG. So we try to at least focus on the resources. So anyone like maybe Juliet come to Malaysia, you say, hey, where is the hot spring? So I can pass the map lah at least. Okay. Then for this one, we try to understand. I passed to Akmal last time. Hopefully he can finish very soon. Together with our friend. Yeah, basically we work together with Thailand, Singaporean. We try to understand the systematic of hot spring distribution in this region. And then we work with MISA and JMG also. For example, this linear map. All right. Next one, some of photo that we conduct the basic study with the limited resources and budget. So we conduct the water sampling and of course, before we conduct this study, the main challenge we face is how to identify the origin of hot water. So we use a flare, handheld sensor. In future, we target for drone. Thanks to IGC this year, hopefully we can visit a lot of both there. And then hopefully we can get the latest technology, how to map, how to make sure that we can plot all the hot spring and then summary in the nice map. All right, and then the following slide, this is example from a site in Peninsular Malaysia when the development proposed, and then we identify a lot of hot water resources. As I mentioned earlier, this is one of example of resort or spa that used for tourism, but we never focus for energy. So maybe we can integrate together and then try to propose multi application of these hot spring resources. And then this one example of lineament study. This one in Sabah, the image for non-active of volcanic figure there. And then this one, yeah, basically there is our basic study on geochemistry and then isotope. So we hope that our attendant or our participant today in this event, hopefully we can learn more in this hall today, especially on this basic study, how we conduct the water sampling. And then I think I'm quite lucky today when our first and second presenter promote about the course program in the university. Okay. And then this one, I try to summary about the most top 5 promising site in Peninsular Malaysia and also one in the Sabah. If anyone interested, maybe you can focus for this area. Maybe we need more data and then we can go for modeling, subsurface and etc. And then one more point I like to mention here is about MT. We have from JMG a partner that the only government agency that have this equipment. And then hopefully we can have another set in future. And then for gravity, local university we have the CG5, and then for magnetic also we have, and quite common is resistivity and IP. We use normally from ABEM Thermometer Sweden, and also we have TEM, but this one quite limited. No much researcher that focus using this method. And also seismic, many people propose to study the structure, but less focus in this topic actually. And last, this one I think in 2012, I studied about GPR data. We tried to correlate with the resistivity. We tried to find the hot water in tunnel. And then another slide is about example of how we have the resources, and then is maybe we can say abandoned or not fully utilized for energy. Hopefully with this low to medium temperature, hopefully we can learn a lot in this conference, that existing technology that can we learn from. Okay, and then this one basically we have a sponsor last time 2018. We drill the slim hole up to 140 meter only, and then we surrender basically. Because we don't have knowledge, experience, everyone claim, oh, I can drill up to 1 kilometer, blah, blah, blah. And then not even 200 meter, and then we start with the pressure and temperature issues. So this is our lesson learned last time. Okay, next slide. On behalf of our team, hopefully a lot of future work can be done with our partner SEDA. Hopefully we can establish the first mini geothermal power plant, and then with the JMG, hopefully they struggle to convince government, all the leaders there to support with the more budget. And my side also, we hope that they can analyze satellite image because as a tropical country, maybe quite dense the jungle and then so on. Also maybe we can use this image, satellite image. And then I think one of our presenter mentioned the importance of guideline. So let's say industry come to university or maybe government agencies. So we need the guideline how to develop, and then maybe at least, like I mentioned, basic map. Where is the hot spring in Malaysia? So we can provide to them, and then together with the guideline is much better lah. Okay. So this is what I mentioned. Hopefully, we can focus this top 5 in future. And then this one as an acknowledgement. So I believe Juliet, you still remember the hot spring in West Malaysia book. And then we managed to publish the latest one is on the right section. And we work together with our partners. And then last bullet, I like to mention about PDNT from Petronas unit. So pray for us to work together in future. And this is last slide. Thank you, terima kasih. Please join us if you want to learn about geothermal in Malaysia. you can free to join in our not official yet, Juliet, because I tried to convince IGA. We want to have the Malaysia chapter maybe, so I name it as MIGA, Malaysia Geothermal Association. Pray for us in future. Hopefully, can be registered properly under our local government. All right, that's all from my part.
Thank you, and sorry to you had to rush because of timekeeping. But any questions? Juliet.
Yeah. Sama-sama.
I just had a little technical question. You had this drill hole to 100
meters.
100 meters. What temperature was it at the bottom?
With the 140 meter, basically from surface we have 70 degrees C, but when we reach at the bottom of 140 is 75. Yeah. But we monitor when we lower down the sensor, we identify the mixings of cool water from fracture maybe that connected with the river.
Yeah, okay.
Affected
so,
this. Yeah.
So cool. Okay. Interesting. Still.
Yeah, but one more thing I like to add on is in Sabah, they drill up to more than 1 kilometer. At the bottom is 200 degrees C. Yeah. That one maybe you are too.
Okay. Yeah.
One quick last question. Okay. Thank you, Hari. Please. So thank you to all our speakers, and let's go have lunch. Enjoy the rest of the conference, and thank you.